So, you just started using LinkedIn Premium. Now what? Well, on your premium company page, you noticed around 7.5 times more page engagement and 5 times more page views. Well done. And now, new clients are messaging you. All because you're using LinkedIn Premium, which helps you get the business growth you want. Think big, small business. Think big. Start your free trial at linkedin.com/premium small business. That's linkedin.com/premium small business.
The First Lady of New York Radio, Joan Hamburg. Entertaining and informative. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the Joan Hamburg Show. And movie director, movie maker, Doug Liman, one of our cousins, happens to be in the Ukraine. And we tracked Doug down on a highway where, Doug, you're on your way to where now?
I'm actually walking down the highway. I'm actually headed out of Ukraine, but I'm walking down a highway. I'm not in a car.
And you've been there for about 5 days or so, and the newspapers,
a little longer, but
yeah, the papers are full of one story. You know how brave everyone is. The president saying that if he had more stuff from NATO and the like, they would have won already. Do you sense among the soldiers that you've been with a feeling of optimism, a feeling of hope, a feeling they can do it?
I mean, the Ukrainian people, the spirit here is infectious. I don't know how Russia thinks they could dominate these people. They're the most incredible people, and everybody I've met here. I mean, it is you can't I don't know what the expression is, but everyone I've met here has inspired me with their resilience, their attitude, their sense of humor. I mean, I met a man who on his Nest camera saw that the Russians, he had some money, so he had fled. He saw that the Russians had moved into his house, on his Nest security cameras. Yeah. And he called the Ukraine military and gave them his address and said, bomb my house. And took out a whole Russian leadership and all their vehicles. And his house, by the way. The guy doesn't have a house anymore. But, that's the spirit of the Ukrainian people.
Unreal. And they're not afraid, or do you see that? Even the soldiers?
Not afraid. I mean, one of the, because I'm traveling with soldiers here, and we were driving to a location yesterday, and we were driving past a blown-up bridge in Irpin, and he points out to us that he blew up that bridge. That was his town. His house got destroyed, and when the Russians came into the town, he was part of a group that blew up the bridge to trap the Russians in his town, and then they killed them all. So the spirit here, the fighting spirit, is extraordinary.
And does everyone
They're obviously
want
outgunned? It's. But you see why it wasn't as easy as Russia thought it was going to be, because I just don't think they expected this kind of energy and pride. I mean, I just drove past a crowd of thousands of people waiting in line, and I figured this is as I was leaving Kyiv, but they're looking for food because nothing's open and there's no heat, and it's pretty tough. And you know what they're waiting in line for? To buy Russia Go F Yourself stamps. The post office here put out memorial, tribute stamps, from those soldiers who took on the battleship, the Russian battleship, and radioed them, Russia, go F yourself. They put out a Ukrainian stamp that said that. And these thousands of people are waiting in line to get a stamp. And I think they've sold out now.
And just all this, despite the fact that one town after another has been razed to the ground. And you still hear shelling, right, and bombing and whatever's going on.
Yeah, no, it is. It's the Russians are still firing rockets indiscriminately into Kyiv, into it's really war crimes. I mean, I came here sort of spontaneously, and it was Passover was coming up, and I was offered the opportunity to fly here, and I thought, instead of sitting at home and talking about people fighting for their freedom, I want to go see it.
See it.
And it has been so moving to see people, the spirit with which they're fighting to protect their country and their democracy against, this against Putin and his dictatorship. It's maybe because I'm Jewish, to sort of see a group that, might stand a chance to stand up against such overwhelming odds.
Yeah.
And it is, and the Russians are just, they're like the opposite from what I've seen. They are.
Meaning what?
Like, I just went this morning and met, and by the way, I'm here filming, and I'm going to put this stuff on my Instagram, and I'm going to come up with other ways to put this all out. And I've met Ukrainian filmmakers who are going to continue the filming, and I left all my camera gear with them. I went out to this field, I can't say where it is, to protect people's safety, and they convinced some Russian soldiers who were stationed there in their tank, and who, by the way, had basically given no food, so they were in the town foraging for food and to be honest, alcohol. And
you're talking about the Russians.
Someone in the
now.
town, the Russians, these Russian soldiers, and they're mixing in the town. It sounds like we're talking about like a World War II movie, but it's like now. And this woman in the town befriended these three young Russian men who were, commanded this tank that was stationed in the town. And she got in touch with a nonprofit called Bancroft that works in sort of war zones. And, through a bunch of intermediaries, they got put in touch with each other. And Mike Scott, who runs it, authorized, sending her money to buy the tank off these Russian soldiers, to just walk away from it and tell the Russians that something went wrong with the tank, and they bought the Russian tank off these two soldiers, and that tank, they turned it over to the Ukrainian military, and that tank is now being used. It's a $2 million Russian tank, and it just took a few $1,000s to get the Russian soldiers to sell it to them.
And Doug, do you find, I'm talking to Doug Liman, a filmmaker, director, and he happens to be in the Ukraine filming. And I'm just curious, are people open and ready to tell you stories? Do they want to talk about stories?
They do want to talk. They have a lot of pent up emotions, as you could imagine, and they want the world to see what's happening here, because these are war crimes. This is World War II. These are war crimes. What Russia is doing here.
And you just talked about the Russian soldiers who sold their tank to this woman. And in the Ukraine, the Russians were like their brothers and cousins and relatives. And is there rage, or do you find a lot of the Russian soldiers, according to the Ukraine soldiers, are sympathetic and don't even know why they're there, or no?
I mean, obviously, it didn't take much to get these three Russian soldiers to just walk away from their tank.
Right.
And so, and by the way, they're not being very well equipped. I mean, they're the Russian soldiers who were. I mean, they don't even look like soldiers. I mean, I've toured, the places where the Russians have occupied. I'm obviously not going where the Russians currently are, and it doesn't look like what it looks like when soldiers are, occupy a space. It looks like what my college dorm room looked like.
Not good.
1,000 times worse. These are not like professional soldiers.
Well, there are.
They're kids.
There are. Right. I was going to say.
And then, by the way, they're looting. I mean, they're looting. They come into a town. The Russians. There's dead Russians all over the place here, and Ukrainians are very happy to point out. If you walk by and miss seeing a dead Russian, and you'll see, I saw a dead Russian 2 days ago. And he was clutching onto one of those packs of colored pens,
right.
24 colored pens. Like he clearly, stolen it from the neighborhood that they were occupying. Like this war isn't happening out in fields. It's happening
right
in neighborhoods. There. And these are and these soldiers are so young. It's not like, oh, he's taking the pens for his kids. He was probably taking them for himself.
Aye.
And his parents will never know what happened to him.
Well, you're not a soldier or a politician, so I'm not going to put you.
But I'm an artist.
On this. But you're an artist, and do you think just observing and talking to people, as many as you can in that area, that the Ukrainians with this spirit have a chance at an enemy that is huge and powerful?
I mean, I think the world has to stand up to help them because Russia they will never surrender.
Give up.
I mean, look what's happening in Mariupol. They will just never surrender. And so Russia's just going to keep slaughtering them, and they will keep fighting. And the only solution here is for the world to step in and stop this atrocity before another person dies.
If they can. And where are you off to now? Are you going to Poland or?
I'm now, I wasn't talking while I was here, especially because I actually went to the front. And so for the safety of me and everybody in my party,
Good.
I didn't tell anybody I was here, except obviously your family, you knew. And, but now I'm trying to get to the border. But as I said, I'm on a highway walking. So at this point, so it's unclear exactly when and how I will get out of here. But I am on my way out, and it was very, the air raid sirens were ringing in Kyiv as we were at that point driving, and it's sad to be leaving here, knowing how many people I'm leaving behind. 40 million people.
It's just awful. And, of course, in your case, too, beside what you're witnessing, you have your family, many of them go way back, the ancestors go back to Poland. So you have to have other feelings, too, beside what you're seeing. Your own family making its way to freedom.
My sister-in-law, or maybe I don't know who on our family chain was pointing out that, our family fled Poland.
Right.
And who would think that all these years later, here I am trying to get to Poland for safety.
Right. Which is an interesting analogy. Be safe, Douglas. We'll talk to you again when you come back to the States. Thank you for joining us. Take
Love
care.
You. Okay.
Love you.
Bye-bye.
I'm Joan Hamburg, Doug Liman, straight from the Ukraine. Stay tuned for more.
Hello, folks. Larry Kudlow here. Pay attention, because China is leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II. One that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Please go to freegoldguide.com/Kudlow or just call 800-621-3908 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold 100% tax-free.